Hey, thank you, Patricia.
Thank
All
you.
right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight at our second session of Med Instead of Meds. And just to go into a little bit brief background, I am with UF IFAS Extension. So I'm located in Orange County. So think about Orlando, Disney World. That's where I'm at. I have my colleague Wanda with me. Wanda, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself really quick.
Hello, everyone. I'm Wanda Adorno. I am the FCS agent in Seminole County, and Seminole County is more closer to the beach and the springs, if you want to think about it that way. So I'm excited we are here.
Yes, and I think I forgot to introduce that I am also an FCS agent, a family consumer science agent myself. But just going on, we are an equal opportunity institution. So, we do not discriminate. And if you do have any issues, there is a number there that you can call. And so today, again, we're talking all about, eating the med way. And there are a few steps to that. So the first is just eating a variety of fruits and vegetables, really focuses on eating fruits and vegetables of all different colors, shapes, sizes. And then, of course, eating grains, the majority of that being whole grains. And then eating beans and legumes, again, of all different varieties. And then incorporating seafood into your diet at least 2 to 3 times per week. And then also adding nuts and seeds into your diet, whether it's having those nuts and seeds as snacks or adding them into your dish. And then focuses on using things like olive oil, so those healthy fats in place of those saturated fats. And then seasoning your foods with herbs and spices instead of, salt. So trying to limit that sodium intake. And then a very popular part of the med diet is having some red wine specifically, 1 glass for women, 2 for men. But it's also not just about eating. Medway also focuses on other things such as physical activity. So, keeping busy throughout the day. It also focuses on enjoying your meals with family and friends. So really sitting down to enjoy that meal, sharing it with those that are closest to you. And then limiting those sugars. So we know a lot of added sugars are in the beverages that we consume, but also sugars such as, in processed foods, all of those, our favorite things like cakes, cookies. Next slide, please. So what sets the Medway apart from other eating patterns are 3 things really, is that it's simple. All of the things that we're telling you, all of the ingredients are simple. The food that we make is very easy and simple as well. It's also delicious. So it's really just using healthy fats, spices, herbs, and things to make the food delicious. And then it's satisfying. So when we say satisfying, yes, it's delicious. So it's satisfying because it tastes so good what we're eating, but also helps to keep us full and helps us to feel content for longer. So how can you eat the Medway? Well, there are 7 different steps to eat the Medway, and we're going to be talking about those 7 steps in each session. So today's session is we're going to be talking about changing your protein. And then we go to number 2, which is swapping out your fats. 3, eat more vegetables. 4, eat more fruit. 5, snacking on nuts and seeds. Then 6, making your grains whole grains. And then 7, which is rethinking your sweets. And so again, we're going to be talking today all about step 1, which is changing your protein. So the med way of eating really emphasizes, eating plant-based foods. Again, fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes. So you just want to replace some of the protein items that you're eating with plant proteins, again, like those beans and legumes. And you want to do that often. But then it really talks about eating seafood at least 2 to 3 times per week. And including fatty fish in that seafood. So fatty fish meaning like salmon or mackerel. You want to avoid fried fish. Of course, we know, when we fry things, that's a little more on the unhealthy side for us. And then again, you want to choose white meat poultry, like turkey or chicken, and then really limit your red meat intake. And then, or if you are going to eat red meat, choose those lean cuts of red meat. So how do we change our protein, right? So each session, we're going to go over some med flips. So again, you want to limit meat. So limit the beef, pork, and lamb. Eliminate or just limit those highly processed meats. Choosing again, white meat poultry, increasing your fish and seafood, increasing your plant protein. So again, those beans, nuts, and seeds. And then also choose a medway when it comes to dairy and eggs. So we are going to be talking about dairy and eggs in a little bit further up in our slides. But it is known that changing your protein really is arguably the most impactful dietary change that you can make. It might sound a little confusing at first, which is why I really like this protein choice continuum. It makes it a little bit more easier to understand when we're talking about the protein choices that you want to make. So on this continuum, you can see there right underneath eat more, and it goes all the way up to eat less. So we start at eat more, which is those beans, nuts, and seeds. Eating more plant proteins overall is just a general great way to improve your health. And then, you can just try to replace some of that meat in your diet, again, with those bean, nuts, and seeds. And then you move up to fish and seafood. You really want to try again to eat at least 2 to 3 servings of fish and seafood every week, which is typically in the 3 to 4 ounce servings. Eat at least 1 serving of high-fat fish, such as salmon, again, mackerel. We want those omega-3 fatty acids, right, from those high-fat fish. So we know that omega-3 fatty acids are really good for our heart health, as well as our nervous system and brain functions. Then you move up, you see eggs and fat-free dairy. So you can eat eggs up to 7 times per week. And then when you choose your dairy products, try to choose those fat-free dairy products like fat-free yogurt, fat-free milk. And then in the middle there, you can see that lean meat. So choosing lean meat like lean pork, lean beef, lean veal, lean lamb. If easiest way to tell if you're getting a lean cut is to kind of look for those words loin or round in the name. So like round beef, right? Round veal. Additionally, choose cuts of meat that have the least amount of marbling. So imagine, marbling in your tile. If you see marbling like that in meat, that's going to be actually visible fat. That's what that actually is. So choose cuts of meat that have the least amount of marbling in them. And then, choose those meats that have the least amount, the least percentage of fat when you're choosing them. And then just always ask your grocer or butcher for help in choosing those leaner cuts of meat. If you do go to a grocery store or even a butcher, they're always willing to help. So just ask and they will point you in the right direction. And then you'll see that dark meat poultry. Limit that dark meat poultry, such as chicken, thighs, legs. Dark meat tends to be higher in fat. So that's why you really want to limit that. And then next you have your higher fat dairy. So limiting those. And then next you have that higher fat meat. Just limiting that. And then of course, at the very end there, the eat less, those highly processed cuts of meat like bacon, most deli meat, and sausage. So the amounts that are suggested that you vary, to go the medway do vary. However, it is recommended that you have no more than 2 to 3 times per month with a serving size of 4 to 6 ounces. Less in the medway is better. We want to eat more fish, eat more plants, and eat less meat. So again, we always like to offer those med tips throughout our program. So one thing that you can do is replace half of the ground meat in your recipes with vegetables. This is a really great way, again, to limit the amount of meat that you're eating. And then one thing that tends to really have that meaty flavor are mushrooms. So if you're having, you see this mushroom beef burger here, or even mushroom beef taco, you're still getting the beef taste, right? But then you're replacing half of that with mushrooms, so it's still gonna have kind of like that meaty taste, meaty texture to it when you add mushroom. If you want to take it a step further, you could try ground turkey or ground chicken in place of the beef. And then again, you're limiting the red meat that you're eating. And then again, just greatly limiting or eliminating the highly processed meats. And then use less bacon. I don't know if you're like me, I do love bacon, but trying to just use less of it. So one tip is, you can make a whole package of bacon, but then freeze it and use one piece at a time. So that way you're not wasting your food. You're still getting a little bit of, that food that you like bacon, but just eating less of it. And then if you're when you choose white meat poultry, like turkey and chicken, try to eat it in different ways or prepare it in different ways. I don't know if you've ever heard also, oh, I'm so tired of just eating chicken breast, chicken breast with a side of something vegetable, right? A type of vegetable. But when you prepare it in different ways, it can change the way that it tastes. It makes it a little bit more exciting for you, for your palate. So, you can use your grill, oven, or stovetop. And again, maybe in using, herbs or different spices to even change the flavor as well. Less meat is also healthy for you and healthier for the planet. So replacing meat, with healthy proteins, especially plant proteins, it really does, have a smaller environmental footprint than, when we eat meat in meat production. And then eating fish 2 to 3 times per week. So make at least one serving, again, a high fat fish such as salmon, because we want those omega-3 fatty acids. But how can you get, fish in your diet at least 2 to 3 times per week? Well, if you're really interested, I know Wendy or we'll drop it in the chat, but our medinsteadofmeds.com website has so many amazing recipes, especially for fish and everything else that we talk about. But some things here you see on the screen, the salmon burger. The salmon burger is actually one of my favorite things that I have made in this class. It is a huge hit. It's so easy and simple, right? Like we talked about, but still tastes delicious. So I highly recommend you looking at that one. And then, right, another delicious sounding dish that Med Instead of Meds website has is basil shrimp and tomato pasta with feta, and then fish tacos with avocado mango salsa. So there's a lot of really delicious ways that you can get fish in throughout the week. And then another life hack, right, is, make days that are specific for you that you're going to have this fish, right? So here you see, make a salmon Saturday. I love this because it's like, okay, there's some alliteration in there, which I like, but it's a reminder, okay, on Saturdays, I'm having salmon. Or maybe you like tuna Tuesday, or mackerel Monday, right? So just kind of setting days for yourself that you'll always have some sort of seafood dish. So a fun little life hack. And now I'm going to switch it over to Wanda. Oh, Wanda, before you begin, sorry, I did not mean to cut you off, but I forgot to mention in the beginning, because I'm about to go get ready for our food demo, that if you were planning to cook along, some of our items, some things I've already chopped up ahead of time. So you will be seeing me saute the vegetables for our quick burrito bowl that we're going over. But I didn't want to have you all sit and wait for my rice to be ready, because I'm using brown rice, so that takes about 45 minutes. So just want you to know, if you are cooking along, that some things are already pre-measured out and pre-chopped. So if you're planning to kind of make the meal with us, you might want to think about, you can chop now while you're listening to Wanda talk. So sorry, I forgot to mention that in the beginning, but I wanted to say it now. And now I will turn it over to Wanda.
Okay, just be careful with your fingers while you're watching me and you cutting things.
Listen, yes.
So some common questions about fish and eating the Medway that people have is, do I have to eat fish to go med? Or what can I do about fish being expensive? Or what about mercury? Or is farm-raised fish okay? So when it comes to, do I have to eat fish to go med? You could incorporate the other aspect of the midway and still benefit from the healthy eating patterns that the midway offers without having the seafood and without having the fish. Just if you haven't tried or you just don't like fish, we recommend to try one of the recipes that we have. You might like it, trying it with a different flavor or trying with a different sauce. You might end up liking a fish that you probably didn't like before. So when it comes to what can I do about fish and seafood being expensive, one of the things that we could do is buy um, canned fish or canned tuna. It's actually inexpensive and fast. If you are going to buy canned tuna or canned salmon or any other fish, we recommend that you buy it in water or in olive oil. Also take advantage of some stores might have BOGOs, buy one, get one, and you could use some coupons and actually cut those coupons and you might end up paying very little for those cans of salmon. Also remember that you are going to, can we go back a little bit? I'm sorry. Also remember that you're gonna be switching some of the meats. So you're not gonna be buying as much red meat and other meat. So you're gonna be saving some money. So you're gonna see some savings actually when you switch into the midway. What about mercury? Next, please. So don't let the fear of mercury stand between you and eating fish. So mercury enters the environment and is consumed by a small fish who is consumed by a larger fish and consumed by even a larger fish. This is called bioaccumulation. And as a result, the larger fish is having the larger amount of mercury. But here in the United States, most of the fish that we eat, they're actually low in mercury. And there are the ones on your list, and you should have a handout also with the low mercury fish, which is salmon, pollock, oyster, shrimp, catfish, flounder, tilapia. I think those are the common ones that we eat here in the United States, like tuna. So these are the ones that they have done some research and they found to be low in mercury. So populations that need to be concerned with mercury consumption are pregnant women and small children. They do recommend still that they have 1 to 2 servings of low mercury fish per week, and try to avoid, don't eat raw or partially cooked or high mercury fish such as shark, swordfish, king mackerel, tilefish, tuna. Those fishes are going to have the large amount of mercury. And eat a variety of low mercury fish each week is still recommended for pregnant women and children. So what about when it comes to farm raised and wild caught? This actually it's a sweeping and statement that it's impossible to give. This determination that depends on the specific of the seafood item being purchased and how it was produced. We could get some good or we could get some bad farm raised, and we could also get some bad or we could get some good wild caught raised. So we don't have a sweep and final answer for this. As consumers, we have to be savvy consumers and do a little bit of research and see what has been what's been an outbreak, what's going on. And we have actually a few websites that if you are interested, we actually have it in the notes. And Wendy, if you have a chance, if you could put those 4 websites if they are interested. One of them being a popular one being seafoodwatch.org. And if you want to find out if you're buying wild caught fish, you could find any latest information about mercury levels on that. Next, please. So eating more plant protein, it's a great way to improve your health. By eating more beans and legumes, you actually eat in lower calories, higher amount of fiber, and different sources of protein. And legumes and beans provide a sense of fullness and satiety.
Looks like Wanda froze on us, and she was referencing how beans are basically going to help to keep us full a lot longer. They're higher in fiber, they're going to have a lot of protein, and they're just going to help us stay full longer. And so on our next slide, we've got a GoMed life hack. And so when Wanda's able to join us again, we'll get her back, let her pick back up. But here you can see on the slides, we want to increase our plant protein. And here we've got 3 different recipes: the quinoa pinto bean burger, a white bean hummus, and lentils with cumin vinaigrette. And with these, you want to make sure that you're cooking the beans and legumes in bulk. And one of the ways, just because it does take some time with some of if you get dry beans, it does take time, but they freeze beautifully, which is a great thing. So they're already prepared. All you have to do is warm them up, add them into some of these recipes that you might find on the Med Instead of Meds website. You can do a double batch of the lentils with cumin. You can do a double batch of the quinoa pinto bean burger. And again, freeze half of it, eat half of it now. And then for the hummus, instead of buying our store-bought hummus, go ahead and make it fresh. And I will tell you, there are so many ways to make hummus. You can, in this, it looks like, white bean hummus, that gives it away, but you can do a black bean hummus. You can add a variety of different toppings to give it a little extra flavor with that olive oil. So it is truly endless. The recipes are endless, but that white bean hummus you can find on the Med Instead of Meds website. And so next up, we've got best beginner bean. I'm not going to try to say that one fast, but for this, lentils are the way to go. Lentil bean burgers, lentils can go on a salad, as you can see here. These are very simple beans to use. And with lentils, most of the lentils that we buy, you're not going to have to rinse, but definitely check the packaging just to make sure that that if you need to pre-rinse or prior to cooking, but typically you're not going to have to do that with lentils. But for most other beans, yes, you will need to rinse or soak overnight. And so again, for this, you don't have to soak these. It's a short cook time. They have red lentils, brown lentils, green lentils. I've even seen yellow lentils. So I haven't seen anything beyond that. So if you have, you throw that in the chat, because I haven't seen anything beyond those few colors. And again, you can use this in so many dishes. Lentils are very versatile. They're not super flavorful. So whatever you add to it, such as the rosemary you see with the salmon, is going to help flavor that the lentils or the beans. All right. And here we've got 3 different options. We've got canned beans, which you can purchase. I know myself, I purchase low sodium canned beans quite often because it's a grab and go. It's quick meals, usually lower in cost. Another thing that you can do is rinse your beans. So running it through a strainer, rinse it off. It's going to get a little bit more of that sodium off the bean, especially let's say if you don't have a low sodium option at your store. This is a great way just to help make it a little bit healthier. Your heart will thank you. And you can also use a slow cooker for, especially if you're going with dry beans. So to cook your dry beans, you can use a slow cooker, a pressure cooker. And I know a lot of folks have the Instapot, which is a type of pressure cooker. That's another option that you can use for beans as a protein source. And it's an inexpensive protein source. So here's just a quick life hack. In this case, where you'll see that we do have a name brand here, but we're not promoting one brand over another. And you can see here it's showing you some pinto beans. A lot of us probably don't think about starting with pinto beans from the dry, but you can go a long way with one bag, I tell you. So soaked beans, you can see 48 hours. Drain, you're going to put it in your slow cooker with a little bit of cooking stock. You could probably use vegetable stock as well, and leave on cook for 8 to 10 hours. So you could do that while you're away at work. And when you come home, let it cool. You could freeze it into bags and you're good to go. So I just want to leave it on the slide for a moment because this is why people don't eat beans. Oftentimes they're like, whoa, they're okay, but can't do it. So let's talk a little bit more of ways that you can reduce your gas from eating beans. And I'm going to turn it back over to Wanda.
I apologize. It's storming where I am.
That is okay. We're glad you're here.
Okay, so did you went over the whole chart? Because this is a good chart. So
Nope,
if
we
you are
just got to the slide.
okay, so if you are new to cooking beans, this is actually a really good start and a really good chart. So if you are doing the dry beans, soaking the beans for 48 hours is a great way. The night before, the evening before, change the water, cook until very soft. Keep fully covered with water while cooking. So make sure that you pay attention to the water level of the beans. Another thing is chew well your beans, 15 to 20 bites is what we recommend. Add beans slowly to your diet. If you're not used to having beans, start once a week and then add twice a week and so on, and you continue from there. Add spices that aid to digestions like ginger, cumin. When I make my beans, I always add cumin and a little bit of chili powder. That any of these spices could help aid with digestions and the gas. If you're going to add salt to your beans, add it to the very end of the cooking process. If you do it at the beginning of the process, the beans is going to take longer to get softer. So try to do it at the very end, maybe the last 5 minutes of the cooking process of your beans. If you're doing canned beans, the canned beans, we recommend also to rinse them, and you take about 30 to 40% of the sodium, and you still need to cook them a little bit further so they could be a little softer, and that will help also with the gas. So you got excited, you're gonna cook 2 pounds of beans this week, and now what? What are you gonna do with all these beans? So some ideas that you could do with the beans is add them to salad, beans and rice, hummus, or other bean spread, burritos, tacos, side dishes, drizzled with olive oil, bean soup, and which is delicious. And having hummus as a spread instead of mayonnaise and butter is a great tip. What about vegetarians? So eating vegetarian is consistent with the mid way of eating. Vegetarians usually get their protein from plant protein. They're getting beans, they're eating legumes. So vegetarians consist with the midway, the dietary midways. The one thing that they might be missing is the DHA and the APA. Talk to your doctor, to your healthcare provider, and they could recommend some supplements If you are vegan, also with the B12, talk to your doctor and share and tell them your concerns that you might not be getting enough of the B12, so they could give you the recommendations on what supplements to take. When it comes to tofu and soy, I heard good things and I heard bad things. They're not a miracle and they're not your demon. They're not an enemy either. What about dairy and eggs and the midway? Traditionally, the Mediterranean diet is not high in dairy. They recommend 1 to 2 servings per week. So yogurt, low fat or fat free if you're going to have yogurt, cheese, and very small amounts. If you are going to have milk, try to have fat-free milk and very small amounts. They do recommend up to 7 eggs per week. So that could be 1 egg per week. That's good news for those that are egg lovers. So the Mediterranean diet is very low in saturated fat. The American Heart Association and the American College of Cardiology recommend a low saturated fat diet. So take steps to change your protein. Limit meat, beef, pork, lamb. Limit and eliminate highly processed meat. Choose white meat, poultry. Increase fish and seafood. Increase plant protein, beans and nuts and seed. Midway, the dairy and eggs. And remember, changing your protein is arguably the most important dietary change you can make. All right, so we've probably been all day at work today, and we're so thankful that you are here today. So last week, you talked a little bit about mindful eating and the midway. Eating mindfully means eating with awareness of what's on your plate, and also the entire experience, enjoying what you're eating and enjoying it with family. Mindful eating is also represents the moment and enjoy every aspect of the meal you are eating. This includes being mindful, also includes mindful of what you plan in your meals and the protein and what you put in on your plate. So being mindful is a big, important part of planning your meals. So make time to plan. Think about when is the best time of the week for you to do your planning. Take 20 to 30 minutes for plan your meals. This way you can know at least what day of the week you planning to have what and incorporate those things and try to switch those proteins. If you are going to switch to more fish or more plant protein, you could take the time to plan that. Make a list of the main dish and side dishes you will serve for each day of the week, and use the midway recipes to help you plan. If you're not sure what to incorporate, what should I do this week, visit the med.com website. You're going to find a lot of good tips and recipes and side dishes as well. If you feel uncomfortable planning for a whole week, you could start just a few days. Maybe start with 2 to 3 days. Tips to keep it simple: select recipes with few ingredients. If you look at a recipe and it has more than 6 ingredients, maybe you want to choose another one that has a little bit less ingredients. Choose recipes that you feel comfortable preparing. And use simple cooking techniques, like if you see saute or bacon or grilling, terms that you are familiar with, then go ahead and start with those recipes first. It will make it a little bit easier for you. Making a shopping list. I am a little bit still old-fashioned. I still like to write down my list in a paper, but we all have iPhones or some type of smartphone, and people do their list on the smartphone. So the next step of planning is to make a shopping list based on your menu for the week. Use the list to help you remember the things that you need. When you go to the grocery store, stick to your list. Buy only the items that are on your list. Unless you see something that is really good, that you know is buy one, get one free, maybe you have coupons, and you know that it's a good deal. Maybe you could buy that extra little item, but really try to stick to what's on your list. Check the things that you already have. Look in your freezer and your refrigerator and your pantry. Sometimes when we don't make a list and we don't look at our pantry, we come back with 3 items that we already had, and we really forgot the one that we really went to the supermarket for. So check your pantry, check your refrigerator. Make sure to include basic items that you need, that you and your family like, and that they're your favorite. So involving your family in meal planning, especially if you have kids, could be a great way to switch into the midway, to the med instead of meds. Um, if if you have picky eaters, maybe you could let them pick one fish or one seafood or maybe new vegetables. If you're preparing a new dish, maybe let the family member name that dish. It could be a silly name, but they will feel proud that they named that dish, and maybe they're more willing to eat it and try it. Research has shown that children, it takes them about 8 to 10 times to try a food before they like it. So don't give up. Continue to introduce them to the food. Always serve them a side dish or something that they like when you introduce them to a new food. You foods that they're in seasoned, when you buy foods that they're in seasoned, they're gonna cost less and they're gonna taste better. This is a good visualization when you are planning your meals. Think about what's on your plate and what your plate is gonna look like. The midway, half of your plate, they recommend vegetables and fruits, more veggies than fruits, whole grains, and a healthy protein, and water. So think about this image when you are planning your meals. So leftovers have gotten a bad reputation. Like I try not to use leftovers anymore because a lot of people just don't like leftovers, but I actually don't call it leftovers, I call it more overs. Because when you are cooking meals, why only cook once? Cook a little bit more so you could have more over for your next meals. So think of leftover as an ingredient, not the same food as a second time. For an example, if you cook a whole chicken and you only use half of the chicken, maybe that chicken, you could use it for chicken tortillas, or you could use it in a chicken salad, or you could use it in a soup. And you could create a whole new meal with that food. Freshen it up, add the lettuce and tomatoes and those type of things, and freeze leftovers for later. Like if you get excited, you make about 10 salmon burgers, freeze the other ones. Organize your pantry and refrigerator and freezer. This will make it so much easier for you to go when you are planning and you go shopping. If you keep your pantry organized, your freezer organized, you know what you have. Try to use the first in, first out technique. When you buy in things, put the new ones in the back and the old ones bring it to the front. This way you could use the one that is about to expire sooner. And when it comes to organization, it's a continual process, right? When you organize your pantry a week later or 10 days later, it probably needs some organization again. So try to keep every 7 to 10 days to organize your pantry. So be mindful about meal planning, food buying, and food preparation. Be realistic about how much time you're willing to put for food prep, and plan accordingly, right? If you come home and you only have 30 minutes to cook and prep, think about that when you choose some recipes, when you are planning. I know that I'm not going to spend more than 20 minutes making a recipe, so plan your meals accordingly. Remember, healthy eating is a continuum. Healthy-ish is better than healthy. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. So remember that. You don't have to be perfect. It has to be good. So, and one of the handouts, we give you the meal planning in action. So when you planning, start with a commitment that includes a food, like the whole grains, the fruits and the vegetables. Add weekly standards like a Mahi Monday or Taco Fish Tuesday. Add your family go-to. Remember what your family likes. If they try something new, try to keep that on hand and try to keep adding new things. Add a meal based on foods you have on hand. So looking at that pantry, making the list from what you already have in your pantry and your freezer. Items you plan to prep for the week. Schedule time for shopping and prep. So taking those 20 to 30 minutes for prepping, it's going to make your life easier. And again, find your family standards, try to see what your family, what kind of fish they like. Do they like, they like tilapia? That could be tilapia Tuesday or tilapia Thursday, things like that. All right, so eating the midways. So do we have any questions so far?
No questions, but I love how Sandy suggested, what about Thoughtful Thursday? Can
Ooh,
incorporate that mindful eating.
that sounds good. All right, if we don't have any questions, then I'm gonna pass it on to my colleague Hillary, and we are gonna be making a bean burrito, I think it is.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we could hear you now.
Sure can.
Okay, so it is going to be a quick burrito bowl. And I'm gonna have, so my head's a little bit chopped off, but I'll just bend down. But I have another view that we will spotlight in just a minute when I really start to get cooking, so that you'll be able to see everything a little bit better and I won't have to bend down, my head won't be chopped off. But yeah, so we have a quick burrito bowl. I'm just
Hillary, I'm sorry. I don't know if you meant to have your camera on, but we don't see you. We just see your picture.
Oh,
Nope, you're good, Hillary.
I'm good? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So for our
Yeah?
quick
Okay.
burrito bowl,
Okay.
I like this recipe because it is very simple, right? Just like we say, we want the med way to be. All of our things are simple, but they are delicious. So I already did start to cook the rice because I didn't want you to sit for 45 minutes. And I mean, I could have talked for 45 minutes, but our brown rice is already cooked. So I have that here. And again, like I mentioned, everything has been pre-measured and pre-chopped out just to make it so that we get out at 7 o'clock. But I'm going to go ahead and switch to my food cam. So I'm going to start that video and then I'll have that spotlighted as well. But here you can see I chose a lot of some different colors for our peppers. Of course, we have our onions, but I chose yellow peppers and green peppers. Of course, any color you want, right? But I chose these because I'm a huge fan of, colors. We want to eat a variety of colors because they all give us those different nutrients, right? So the first thing I'm going to do, since my rice is already cooked, is we're going to put our chopped peppers and onions, and I'm just going to heat them up in the skillet so that they get soft. It usually takes about 5 minutes depending, but now you can really see the colors. I don't know if you can hear that sizzle, but it's sizzling, which is really satisfying to me. And then while that's getting nice and soft, we have our lettuce that we chopped. So again, choose any type of lettuce or that you want, right? This is butter lettuce that I found. I chose it because it had the fresh from Florida sign, which means that you are purchasing food that's grown in Florida. And so I just chopped that up. And then we have our cherry tomatoes, again, nice and chopped up in half. I have my black beans. I did get low sodium black beans. Of course, we want to also rinse those as well, just like mentioned before, when you rinse the beans as well, even though I was able to get low sodium, by rinsing them, I'm gonna rinse off a little bit more of that sodium. So we don't want to have, you know, that abundance of salt intake. And then I have my salsa here. And then of course, my cheese and my non-fat Greek yogurt. And so these are getting nice and soft. And what I really like about this recipe too is it's so versatile, right? Maybe you don't want the peppers. Maybe you want a different type of vegetable. Well, cook whatever vegetable you like, right? That you are going to want to eat. Maybe you're not a fan of black beans. Well, a lot of different beans, right, that we could choose from. So choose a different bean. Or add even more vegetables, right? Maybe I'd add some mushrooms in with this. Right now, you know, it's a plant-based, right? But maybe I want to add some fish. So then I could add some fish on top. So a lot of different things that you could do with this.
And Hillary, I was just saying how with those, the bell peppers, lots of vitamin C, another great
Yes.
source other than our Florida OJ.
Yes. A lot of great vitamins and nutrients in this meal alone. Maybe you even want to take it a step further, you know, have a 100% whole wheat tortilla and make, you know, a veggie burrito out of it. Maybe you want to take some of those eggs that's recommended. You know, for breakfast, ooh, I would love to crack an egg with these, stirred in and kind of make like a Southwest egg breakfast. All right, so these have gotten soft for me, so I'm going to go ahead and turn my stove off. And then what I'm going to do is, again, here's the rice. Again, if maybe you don't have brown rice on hand and you want to be even, you know, you want it to be fast, you could use instant rice or rice that is already pre-cooked and you just kind of heat it up in the microwave. It really just depends. So I'm just placing the peppers on top of the rice here. All right. So there are our peppers and onions. It's already smelling so good. I wish y'all were here so you could smell it with me. So we've got that. And then our next step that we're going to do is then we're going to place the lettuce. Then we're going to place our tomatoes. And then after that, we take our black beans. Put those on top. Then we've got our delicious condiments. So we have our salsa. I've got our little cheese. And then lastly, our non-fat Greek yogurt that we are using in place of sour cream. And oh my goodness, doesn't this look, trying to put it right, delicious. It smells delicious and was so fast to make. So here is our delicious instead of Medway quick burrito bowl.
I love it. I'm giving you a round of applause. And I know a couple of folks, the beauty of these bowls is that you can kind of create your own. And I know Hillary mentioned about the sprinkled of cheese, the little bit of cheese. You don't need a lot, especially when you're using shredded cheese. You know, spread it out so it looks like you're consuming a lot more. Sometimes it's just a mind trick, but it does add that little extra flavor, kind of like in the mushroom burgers. Any questions on our burrito bowl for Hillary? It does look delicious. I know what I'm having for dinner.
I wish y'all were here and I could share because it smells delicious.
Any
And
questions on today's session on protein? Yes, it does, Rebecca. I agree. It does look awesome.
And honestly, the best thing about this dish is I think it's the rice that took the most amount of time, right? So of course, because it's brown rice, it takes, but everything else, chopping 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending. And there you go. You have a quick, easy, delicious, healthy midway dinner for lunch.
And I'm a big fan, and those are easy to make for a quick pack. You can pre-pack them in or at least in the solid ingredients. Do a little bit of the liquid like salsa on the side, just like you would with a salad. And I know next week we have swap your fats and snack on nuts and seeds. And we will be doing a super simple recipe. I'm so glad I get to do that one. Woohoo! Yet another simple one, but we'll be doing a little DIY dressing as well as just a little olive oil toast. And it's just as easy as it sounds. So just a simple dish, but definitely talk a little bit more about choosing the right fats and making wise choices for snack time. So any other questions for Wanda and Hillary? Oh, thanks, Sandy. It did look great. All righty. Well, then, without hearing any questions, you guys, we can always, Miss Patricia can reach out to us if you think of questions at later as you go throughout your evening. If you're preparing this evening, good luck. And I can't wait to hear next week what you thought. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Patricia?
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good evening.